Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's ceremony. Please begin making your way to your seats and silence mobile phones and other electronic devices at this time. The ceremony will begin shortly. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's retirement ceremony in honor of Sergeant Major Matthew A. Davio. Today, the men and women of the United States Army, along with the soldiers of Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, honor Sergeant Major Davio for 27 years of distinguished, faithful, and dedicated service to our country. The presiding official for today's ceremony is the Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Angela L. Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation given by the 2-1 Infantry Battalion Chaplain, Chaplain Stephen Jimenez, and the singing of the National Anthem.
Lord, today we have gathered to recognize the accomplishments of Sergeant Major Matthew Davio and to celebrate his retirement. I thank you very much for his contributions, and I pray that you would bless him and bless his family as he now begins this next chapter of life. Provide to him new blessings of time with loved ones and hobbies as he releases the duties which the uniform placed upon his shoulders. Enable him to enjoy the times ahead of him. I ask that you would also show him the path forward to continue to serve you, his family, and others. And for those that Sergeant Major Davies trained and now leaves behind, I ask for you to guide them as they continue to provide effective PAO coverage in the Army. Amen.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Angela L. Scott, Commander of Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion.
Hello, everybody. So it's a bit of a small crowd in here today, but that's because this is, as we talked about when I walked in, one of the most senior public affairs non-commissioned officers in the Army. So the touch and impact and the span is probably worldwide, I'm assuming, with the friends and family you have on here. Thank you for attending today. Thank you for both honoring us and allowing us to be a part of this with you. It's a big deal. And to your family and your friends out there, thank you for being here with us through multimedia, which is the new thing, right? It's always been your thing, but it's a new thing, right? Yeah. So as I was running today, I started reflecting on retirement, knowing we were going to do this today and meet here today. And the song Old Soldiers Never Die started playing in the back of my head. I started humming it, and people thought I was crazy as I was running by, I'm sure. But when I got back to my office, I thought, where exactly did that phrase come from? And so I looked it up, and it initially is recorded through social media in the old days in 1908 at a retirement ceremony for a Fulbright colonel who served 29 years. The second time it's seen recorded is for a sergeant major who served 27 years. And that's where, during his retirement ceremony, the words, "Old soldiers never die," was stated as a part of his farewell speech. And I think it's incredibly fitting because it was recorded and it is still read today, just like so many of the products that you and your soldiers created by that Sergeant Major. It spans history. And so from there it became a ditty or a song sang by soldiers with, as we know, words continuously added and music added to it, which is also what you do for a living. Touching people, making people remember things and understand and appreciate things through media. And so I just thought it was really fitting. It was pretty neat to see that reflected on a lifetime history. It just continues in a cycle and it continues on. Old soldiers never die. And what you do, it really doesn't fade away in your field. It continues on, your impact and influence that you've made. And so to your parents out there and your family, if they're watching, thank you so much for bringing up someone that's an incredible professional. 27 years he and his family have given. 27 years of moves or adventures, right? 27 years of having to make new friends again, or networking globally, right? 27 years of having to put on the uniform or help him out when he left for deployment, or 27 years of giving yourselves to a greater good that's far beyond just your individual selves, which we will always remember and appreciate, especially for your volunteer time in support of our families. I want to personally thank you. Talking to you when you came to my house for our New Year's social, and you were talking about so animatedly about how to influence and help families. I did some research behind and found out you have spent your entire career doing that, and I appreciate what you've done for us. It will never fade away. It will just continue on with the people that you've helped as they will continue to help each other. Just like your development and your influence on soldiers will continue to impact, as we've talked about before, generation after generation. 27 years of influence on another 27 and 27 and 27 years. So thank you for what you've done. I'm not going to say thank you for your service, because it continues, right? But thank you for allowing us to have a special day with you, for giving to a greater good that we all believe in deep in our hearts. We really appreciate it. With that, I'd like to go ahead and publish yours and go through the process. We're ready? Yeah, let's do this thing.
Sergeant Major Matthew Davio joined the Army as a private in October 1994 and would go on to fill a lieutenant colonel billet as a sergeant during the 2002 combat tour in Afghanistan. He also created the programs of instruction for both the Public Affairs Branch and NCO leadership courses as a Sergeant First Class in 2010. He twice served as the first sergeant over the greatest enlisted personnel the Public Affairs Branch has ever seen, and rewrote the book on core level public affairs, literally changing the 2025 until. His most significant contribution to the military is when Sergeant Major Davio was brought on as a Defense Media Activity Operations Sergeant Major. The 2,000-strong international organization was on the brink of deactivation by the SECDEF. Along with Navy Captain Scott Knorr, he innovated and championed dramatic restructure of the American Forces Network to more actively and expansively support combatant commands with public affairs efforts, ultimately saving the joint activity as a whole and dramatically increasing internal and external public reception to the military in the European and Pacific theaters. After retiring, Sergeant Major Davio is moving to a small town north of Nashville, Tennessee, where he intends to regain his southern accent. Please remain seated and hold applause until all presentations have been made. The Department of the Army has awarded the Legion of Merit to Sergeant Major Matthew A. Davio for exceptionally meritorious service over 27 years of service, culminating as the First Corps Public Affairs Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major Davio's expertise and dedication were vital to the overall success of the unit's mission. His dedication to duty and exemplary performance are in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, the Trailblazers Battalion, America's First Corps, and the United States Army. Signed, Randy A. George, Lieutenant General, U.S. Army Commanding. Lieutenant Colonel Scott will now present Sergeant Major Davio with his retirement flag. Lieutenant Colonel Scott will now present Sergeant Major Davio with his retirement pin. At this time, we would like to extend a special welcome to Miss Denise Davio, wife of Sergeant Major Davio, whom will be receiving a certificate of appreciation on behalf of the Chief of Staff of the Army on the occasion of her spouse's retirement from active duty status. At this time, Lieutenant Colonel Scott will present Sergeant Major Davio their certificate of retirement. It reads, "To all who shall see these presents, greeting. This is to certify that Sergeant Major Matthew Allen Davio, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Army on the 30th day of September, 2021. Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army Chief of Staff." Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Major Matthew A. Davio, United States Army, retired.
All right, well, thank you everybody for coming. Colonel Scott, thank you for hosting this event. In 27 years, I've never seen a battalion commander as invested in our public affairs team as you, and things you've done for the MPAD and the Public Affairs Office, and helping Colonel Hyde, who's hopefully watching online. It's been very refreshing, this nice capstone, to see someone like you as my commander. Sergeant Major Martinez, thank you for coming in at the last minute and getting everything straight, fixing all the things that fall kind of apart by the wayside at the last minute. I was like, nothing's working, and he's like, I got it. And 3 phone calls, we're good to go. So I really appreciate that. If you've been enjoying the deep New York accent of our narrator, Sergeant White has been my battle buddy for well over 20 years. Back when I was Buck Sergeant Davio, he was PFC White, and we were together in the 10th Mountain Division, which is also where I deployed from in 2002. And then when I was Operations NCO and I had my team in the 5th MPAD right here, he was my team lead. And then when I became acting first sergeant, he became the acting platoon sergeant in my space and just led a really great team. And I was honored to be at your wedding. Then we fast forward a few years, I make Sergeant Major, I go to Defense Media Activity. There he is again at Fort George G. Meade, waiting for me, working in the Army Public Affairs Center. And he says, all right, I'm going out to JBLM. Next thing I know, I've got orders for JBLM. I get out here to First Corps, he's got 7th ID all straight. He finishes 7th ID, sticks around a little longer, says I'll get 593rd working correctly now. And so, I got to meet your kids, and it's been an honor. Anytime anybody said battle buddy, you're always the first guy I thought of, and it means so much to have you here. So thank you for being here. Chad Menace, thank you for the prayer, much appreciated. Special Spartans, thank you for adding some class to this. That sounded way better than the recording we had earlier. I really appreciate you coming out. Rob Coronado from Vios, who's got this stream working again. The Enterprise Multimedia Center here is by far the best I've seen in my entire military career. And these guys have done an outstanding job of support. When the Office of Chief Public Affairs called up and they said, Sergeant Major of the Army Grinston wants to do a Facebook Live town hall at JBLM talking about his new This Is My Squad initiative. Can you do that on JBLM? I said, absolutely. And then immediately calls the Enterprise and said, how the hell do I do this? And they worked with me, and we figured it out through all kinds of curves. And when the CG started with town halls, I knew that was the crew. They've helped me out through so many occasions, and Rob, it just means the world to me to have you here. And then to be helping out with this getting the stream online, because when I started this career field, we were still gluing things on the pages and then making photocopies for newspapers. And now there's somebody in Korea watching this thing, and it blows my mind. I am too much of an old dog for these new tricks. So really thank you for coming. First Sergeant Lombard, my replacement, thank you for being here. Now it's Master Sergeant Lombard, soon to be Sergeant Major Lombard. And Special Smith for taking pictures. Colonel Patilla, John, Colonel Munson, Sergeant Polk, Special Weaver, all you guys from the team, thank you for coming out. Sergeant McCullough coming back from retirement to be here. I really appreciate you guys. 2020 was a heck of a year. And we all got through it together, and we all worked through it together. And, you know, it's just been a great crew to be doing this with. I'm really glad you guys could be here. Foremost, I want to thank God for getting me to this point. All things are possible through Him, and I really do mean all things are possible, because if you had known Private Davio 27 years ago, you would understand what a miracle this is. You know, even if you had met Specialist Davio, who was having a real hard time in my first unit, and I was pretty much convinced like this was it, this was the end. I'm not doing this anymore. I think PFC Gator knows how I was feeling with that first assignment blues. But I met Sergeant Rick Black in my second assignment, who really showed me what good leadership was, and good NCOs, and Tim Usry and John Goodman. And they turned me around, and meeting the love of my life and getting married to my wife Denise convinced me to give it another 5, and then another 5, and then another 5. And it's really built along. I owe a lot to Colonel Brian Hilferty. He was a very bold public affairs officer. He used to do press conferences in Afghanistan, and he was the 05 that I replaced as an E5. And General Hagenbeck, the 10th Mountain Division Commanding General at the time, he was very much, if you're the guy for the job, you're the guy for the job. I don't see rank. And he gave me a great opportunity to really kind of set me up for my career. But Colonel Hilferty asked him one time, he said, you always tell us how many enemy have killed, but you never tell us how many surrender. And he tells the press, he goes, well, every time we go into combat, the enemy has 2 choices, surrender or die. They've chosen die, we've obliged them. And seeing him get away with that and how well it was received really kind of formed a very bold, confident style my public affairs approach that I've carried throughout my career and been very successful with. So I owe a lot to him for that. Oh God, there's been so many. I went to DINFOS, and just as a creative cadre. Yeah, if you ever get the opportunity to teach, I highly recommend it. When you see that light come on people's eyes, and they get it, and they understand, and knowing that you're what's kind of sending them on that future path, it's transformational. I was lucky enough to go to the NCO Academy and do that again a few years later. In between those 2 things, I had the 5th MPAD, and we went out to Afghanistan, and did just such incredible things. Sergeant White there, of course. Rob Frazier, great NCO, Justin Putz, Brian McGovern, Matthew Thompson, Opal Hood, Daniel Rhodes. If you are watching, I know you've been remarried and your last names have changed. I don't care. Your new names mean nothing to me. I don't know who your husbands are. You will always be putting in Rhodes in my book. Denise Webb will always be Webby. Matt Flores. Colonel Scott Keith kind of paved the way before me and had a lot of great tips on retirement. It was just an amazing team, and definitely the highlight of my career. And I was acting first sergeant, and then I got to be a first sergeant for real with the 16th MPAD in Fort Bliss. Had a trifecta of great commanders: Janet Hare, Mark Miller, Alex Tigner, wonderful captains with Timothy Hernandez, Pete Bogart, Matt Basil, not the Spice. If he's watching, he'll appreciate that I never pronounced his name correctly once. And the NCOs, Matt Veasley kept me sane, O'Brien, Sergeant First Class Michael Bryan, who kept the morale program going. Sergeant Scott Shoemaker, who kept me sane as my operations NCO, more so than anybody else. Still my last really good chess opponent. I haven't had a good chess game since you, Scott. So if you're watching, I gotta get online. I have a lot more time on my hands now to play chess. And then to meet Gregory Binford, the 8th TSC, just wonderful, wonderful people throughout my career who have really set me up for success. And I owe all of them so much, and I'm really going to cherish those memories as I go on. So I appreciate you guys being here. Give me one last chance to say thank you for all the people I owe. It's a debt of gratitude I can really never repay. Now, the one part that, I told myself I wasn't going to cry. This is where I'm going to break it. All right. That was all happy times. When I met my wife, Denise, I was in a very dark place, and I had nothing. And coming from a point where I had nothing to you being my everything. And there's no more military to keep me distracted. I hope you're ready from now on. I'm going to be home a lot more often.
Good job.
No, I don't think I'm going to get a job. I think it's your turn to get a job. But I owe you so much, and there's definitely not been possible Literally, I would not even have the ceremony without her. She kind of pushed me into it. They always push me into things out of my comfort zone and for the good of the Army. And they don't know what they're missing by losing you. They're perfectly aware of what they're missing losing me. They have no idea what they're losing me. So thank you for everything. I love you. All right, we can start playing some music for a
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join us in the playing of the retirement medley in the Army song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal portion of today's ceremony. At this time, the friends and family of Sergeant Major Davio would like to present him with special gifts in honor of his retirement.
I promise I'll keep my speech short. And I'm been honored to be the wife and be thank you to all of us. On behalf of our children, our parents, our family, and our friends, we would like to present you with you already know who made it. Thank you, Cassie and Travis.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you can try now.
Very cool.
And that's all.
Okay.
We found your first Army camera.
Now, first Army camera? That does look like it.
Oh,
Holy
down
smokes. The Nikon 1 Alpha.
yeah, that's great.
All right, it's a balance. Just because something is old doesn't mean it isn't of value. Thank you for your service to your country. Congratulations, your country.
Oh, that's
Of course, you got my
There's another thing that's unregistered.
All right, you're going to have
Yes.
Oh. It's your rescinded orders.
See you next year, everybody. Seattle Washington Distribution
So,
Center. COVID-19
Yeah.
strikes again.
COVID got us, and So there's another gift that's on the way. It'll be dropped off at your house.
Okay. Oh,
It-
all
It
right.
may go with your whole thing.
All right, more to come. All right.
It should be, they told me 3 p.m., but I don't believe them anymore.
That's fair. All right, well, thank you guys, and I think Mom and Dad, you're the only ones still watching now. Thank you for everything and your love and support, and all my family up there. I really appreciate it. At this point, we're going to turn the camera off because we have sweets to give these people. So, thank you for tuning in.
We would like to thank you all for joining us. Please feel free to join Sergeant Major and Mrs. Davio at the reception and wish them a farewell. And to the Army's newest retiree, job well done.
Sweet.
She went crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you got it.
We're next. Oh my God.